Good morning, Polly. How you doing?
Good morning, Greg. I'm doing well. Looking forward to a beautiful weekend.
Oh yeah, any plans?
Oh, I'm going to Newport Ave,
Ooh.
representing Newport County Prevention. Going to have a table, terrific rainbow tutu table skirt,
All right.
along with some very informative, important resources to give out to,
As well as lifesavers.
as well as lifesavers.
That's why I'm going for the lifesavers.
And we'll have a bubble machine.
Really? I didn't know we were getting the bubble machine as well.
I am only divulging this information because by the time this airs, it'll already happen. So, I'm not letting the secret out.
So the secret is not out. The
No.
exclusive will not be let out prior to the event. That's
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
That is awesome. Today we are being joined by the Portsmouth Police Department.
Yes, Officer Pirri and Officer Thulier.
He's a DRE.
He is a
He's
DRE.
a Dre,
He is.
but not that Dre.
No, not doctor, officer.
There we go.
Yeah.
That stands for
Drug recognition expert.
expert.
Yeah.
Wow. Must be a lot to get to be an expert.
It must be.
It's pretty important. You don't want to be like not an expert, like, yeah, I think they're on this.
Yeah, I'm
Be
kind of
far
good
off.
at this. You might be right. No, he's an expert. And then Officer Perry is a resource officer at Portsmouth Schools.
It's a very, very big position, especially now in the news. You hear a lot about, the SROs in
Yep.
schools. Are they in every school, in Newport County?
Not in Newport County. No.
No.
I wish they were.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Seems like a great program to have. I mean, and it's such, from what I understand, it's much more than just an officer present in the school.
It is. It's they make such great connections with the students. It's nice for students to see officers in a positive way
Right.
and as being helpful. So when they see them having to make some difficult decisions or difficult actions, they know that they're human and they're good people. They're doing their job, but they also know that they're there to help when they can.
Police and community, very, very touchy, very, very important conversation to have. So I hope that they really do let us know what it is that they do in the community. I mean, you normally just see the police out and about patrolling, but every now and then you'll see them at an event. I know they came to our wellness fair, so it'd be great to talk to them to see what it is they do in the community, to help them and foster that relationship.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Totally Preventable. Our guests today are Officer Pirri, the school resource officer in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, and Officer Thulier, the drug recognition expert, also at Portsmouth Police Department. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So can you each tell us a little bit about your position in the police department?
Sure. So I'm the school resource officer while school's in session at the high school. And obviously I'm in the schools to make sure everyone's safe. And then on the off season, I'm on the road. So I'm on patrol, meaning I'm basically going out there and stopping cars, responding to calls for service, and doing community policing events as well.
Awesome. It's terrific.
All right, and then I work in the patrol division year round. I work the 3 to 11 shift, so the evening shift. Aside from doing normal patrol work, I also assist with our accident reconstruction unit, and I'm one of our department's drug recognition experts. So currently we have 4. So in that capacity, my role is to assist with drunk and impaired driving investigations when there's a belief that someone is under the influence of something aside from just alcohol. Kind of how the DRE role plays into this.
All right. Okay. So we recently saw the Portsmouth Police Department at our wellness fair. Thank you again for attending. And you were doing car seat checks. kids really loved interacting with the police. Do you do a lot of community events being police officers?
Yeah, so the Portsmouth Police Department, we're really dedicated to community outreach. So we do participate in a lot of events, such as like bike safety events, National Night Out. We do a Halloween trunk or treat. We march and participate in parades. We conduct holiday drives to collect toys for families in town that need. We do backpack and school supply drives. And we also participate in stuff like Project Purple, wellness fairs, car seat checks and installation events. We do a Citizens Police Academy, and we also just started a new program similar to Citizens Police Academy. It's a student program for high school kids in the criminal justice pathway at the high school. And they basically go through a 6 or 7 week course learning about police and law and all that stuff.
That is wild. That is really cool. They definitely didn't have anything like that when I was in school.
No, that's awesome.
So it sounds like there's a lot of community involvement from the department. How far in advance should an organization contact to try and get something on the schedule?
Sure. Yeah. If they can go on our website and they can actually request that we're involved in a community event. I'd say probably at least a week or two in advance, but there's a request form online. So if anyone's interested in having Portsmouth Police Department involved in any sort of community outreach, they can absolutely go on our website and request our presence. And obviously we'll try our best to be there and being involved in the program.
That's awesome. Thank you.
That is awesome. Greg and I didn't attend, but I think Portsmouth Prevention did. But we read about in the paper that you held a mock DUI at the high school. Could you tell us how that goes about, what leads up to it, the day of, what you tell the students and the whole process behind it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was really a good time. Officer Stewart and I had planned the whole event from start to finish. So basically we worked with Portsmouth High School administrators, specifically Assistant Principal Colin Grimsey and Principal Joe Amaral. And we decided that we would do it before prom. So we thought that would be a good idea to educate the kids on the dangers of drinking and driving or impaired driving at all before prom. So basically we worked together with them. The coalition, Portsmouth Coalition helped us, RNA Towing helped, and then Portsmouth Fire Department obviously was involved as well. So we thought having it on campus, it's easy. Kids are able to come out to see it. It's realistic. It's a reminder of how dangerous it can be, obviously, to make that poor decision and get behind the wheel intoxicated. And we had really a good response to it. I think the kids are really shocked to see how accidents play out. And the student actors were unbelievable. They did a great job. And we had DRE Thulier there to help out to do the field sobriety test and actually carry out a mock arrest for the drunk driver. But it was really successful. The kids gave us positive feedback, and we hope to do it annually now as a preventative. Obviously, that's why we're here, totally preventative. So we want to make sure that we continue to do that so students are aware of the dangers, and it's a good educational piece. So we're happy that we're able to carry that out.
Terrific. Were the kids warned ahead of time that this was a mock event, or?
I don't believe the kids are warned. I know the teachers are made aware of it because for planning purposes,
Yeah.
The teachers knew. I'm not sure the kids were made aware of it. I think they knew that there was some sort of assembly going on. I'm not sure if they specifically knew it was a mock DUI.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And would you prefer that they didn't know, or would you? Is
Yeah,
it more of a
because
shock value?
we were actually hoping that it would be like a shocking moment when we pulled the tarps off the cars and they saw the cars that were destroyed, and we had fake blood and props. So they were really shocked to see it when we pulled the tarps off. So I think the surprise is good. It makes it more realistic.
Agreed. And now, I mean, that's a perfect segue to now when school is out and the weather's nice, obviously out here. And I heard there's some hot spots where local underage drinking occurs. Are those hot spots patrolled frequently, or is that?
Yeah, Absolutely. So any tips that we receive about possible underage parties or hot spots where there's kids drinking or using other narcotics or whatnot. So we'll basically go out and we'll patrol those areas heavily, and we'll make sure we get out there as a preventative to hopefully stop these parties before they occur. We also have party patrol shifts where officers can sign up specifically to work these shifts to look for hotspots and to look for parties, not only with high school kids, but Roger Williams kids that are underage as well. So we are proactive in the sense that we go out there and we're trying to prevent any sort of underage drinking parties. Really, ultimately, we always encourage the public to, if they see something, say something. So if they know about a party, maybe that's going to happen a week from now, call us, let us know so we can make sure we can prevent that party from happening, work with the parents. We can work with the school, whoever we need to make sure we keep kids in our community safe.
Now, does Portsmouth have an anonymous line? I know a lot of times people get afraid to tell because they don't want to be the one who told on the party. Is there an anonymous way to do this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, anyone that calls, you can remain anonymous either way. You don't have to give your information, but we do have a tip line that people can call to report these things as well. But again, no one has to say their name, even if they're speaking to the dispatcher. They don't have to give their information, just whatever information they know that can keep our kids safe, and we'll work with what we have for information.
Great, thank you. So you've mentioned the DUI, the mock DUI as a prevention tactic. What other prevention programs do you have or participate in?
So recently I had arranged for a guest speaker to come from Mothers Against Drunk Driving to the high school. The same day that we had the mock DUI, we had the guest speaker come in and speak to students about the dangers of drinking and driving, and how to build a safety net and keep yourself safe as well as your friends safe if you're ever in a position where you are with a person who's trying to get behind a wheel after they've consumed some beverages. So that was really impactful for the kids. They really like that. Hearing personal stories from the guest speaker. I think the guest speaker touched upon the recent accident that happened in West Warwick with the two hockey players. So it hit close to home, Rhode Island being a small state, the kids are really impacted by that. And hopefully they can learn from that and make sure that they don't, allow their friends to get behind the wheel, because it's not only juveniles we worry about, but other people on the road. For instance, that accident that happened in West Warwick, those kids were doing nothing wrong that night. And unfortunately, they were victims of a drunk driver hitting them. So for preventative, we also do compliance checks. I'm actually a compliance officer. So we'll hire a juvenile and send them into local stores to see if they can purchase alcohol or tobacco. And obviously, if a store does sell it to them, we have to do a report on it. And, obviously they're going to be summoned for selling alcohol to a minor. So not only do we do compliance checks, but we also work with the school, and we make sure we check in with parents who are maybe concerned about their kids having some sort of substance abuse issues, and we can put them in contact with counselors, substance abuse counselors, or get them hooked up with the FCC program, the Family Care Community Partners Program. So there's a lot of ways that we can, work with the community and make sure that our community stays safe, especially with underage drinking.
You mentioned parents a couple times, and I know here we're always trying to educate parents on social host laws.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think parents are aware enough. We often hear that parents think it's better that kids drink in their home safely. I take away their keys, at least they're not on the street. Do you do anything with social host and parents? I personally, I haven't. I don't believe our department has, but it is really, actually, it's a good recommendation because yes, it's dangerous. And, just because parents think that their kids are safe at home, that's not always the case. We've actually had juveniles transported to the hospital because they've consumed so much alcohol at home and they have alcohol poisoning.
Wow.
So really it just leads to it leads to a road with bigger problems. And again, that's what we're here to educate people. And we want to make sure that parents know it's not okay to have parties at their house, and it's not okay to let their kids drink in the house, because it could lead to some dangerous things.
I see a new partnership project forming.
Absolutely.
And that social host law, it's informing, parents that even though, you're not at home, or even if you are home, correct?
Yeah, either way.
You host a party, or your youth host a party, and there's alcohol served to underage children, you're on the hook.
You're responsible, right?
That's right. Wow. How do you feel being a school resource officer? How do you feel schools should go about implementing having a school resource officer in schools that possibly either are thinking about having it or are on the fence about having a school resource officer? How do you think schools should go about implementing that?
It's really beneficial, because I'll tell you why. I mean, we're there for more than one reason, obviously. The biggest reason to keep everyone safe, to have a safe learning environment. But obviously we do a lot more than that. We're involved with extracurricular activities, coaching. I mean, I'm the coach of the mock trial team. I'm involved in helping with the softball team, and different programs within the school that I'm also involved with. So really, it's good for kids to interact with police officers. We're human. A lot of times we get a bad reputation because of things that are going on around the country, and we want to form a good bond and relationship with our youth in town, because it's really important to have that bond and connection, and a good rapport, so that we're able to not only prevent them from doing things, but also be there for them if they need something, right? So, it's really important that schools have SROs in a positive way and have them involved in as many programs as they can, because this is just going to benefit the community and have a good relationship between the youth and the police.
Great.
Definitely agree with that.
We've heard that SROs are considered educators, informal counselors, and a proactive law enforcer. Do you agree? I know in some other communities around here, we've had the argument that having a police officer in the school is just going to lead to arrests and kids having a record. And I have not seen that in Newport County. I've only seen positive outcomes. So do you feel that you're also a part-time educator and counselor while you're in there?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been in this position for the past few years, and I've done all of the above. So I really enjoy the educator role, because I get to get into classrooms, I get to teach kids, I get to answer questions, I give presentation of lectures on a variety of topics, whether it's underage drinking, DUIs, common offenses that we see kids get in trouble for. There's tons of things. Even the criminal justice program, those teachers have been fantastic with allowing me to come in and give lessons, as well as arranging for guest speakers. We had the canine officer from Newport come in, canine officer from Middletown come in and give a demo on the canine, which the kids absolutely loved. And then we had another retired officer from Newport come in and talk about police dealing with homeless individuals and how it's handled. So, I really love the educational part. I think it's really important. Like I said, we're there to keep the school safe, to have a safe learning environment for the staff, for the students, for everybody in the building. But even being an informal counselor, sure, we're not certified counselors. I'm trained in mental health. I'm actually certified mental health instructor for my department, but it's really important to just let kids talk if they want to get something off their chest, if something's bothering them, if they're maybe having a bullying issue with somebody and they just want to talk about it and they want someone to listen to them. It's really important to just have them in your office and listen to them. That's really half of the battle, is just providing the ear and some advice to these kids if they need to talk about something that's bothering them.
I'm learning so much about the Portsmouth Police Department during this podcast. I mean, like you're the certified mental health counselor at the precinct, and Officer Thulier is mentioned that there's 4, drug recognition experts. Is this information like on the website? this information needs to be out there. And maybe, the podcast is how it gets out there, but it seems like
Yeah, we appreciate you guys doing this because it really is how it gets out there. So, we have general information on the website. We post stuff on our social media page, but there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that takes place that a lot of times the public doesn't see.
Right. Wow. Now, how important do you feel that, how important to youth reform is the collaboration between the school resource officers, educators, students, and mental health professionals? How important do you think that partnership is?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, there's not a day that goes by where I'm not checking in with the counselors. It's really a partnership is what it comes down to. So it takes a team. Every day there's a student that goes through something, and it's really important that we're there for them. A team is there for them, because not always are we individually going to be available for somebody, right? So social services, it's really important for the door to be open at all times, kids to be able to check in. And, unfortunately, we've seen an uptick in mental health ever since the pandemic. And same goes for youths, right? So, it's really important for us to collaborate with the teachers, the counselors, the psychologist, the social worker, and just be one big team for mental health purposes to provide support for these kids that might need someone to talk to.
Great. I agree. I think the more people you have on a kid's team, the better. You never know who needs to jump in and help. And
Takes a village.
it does. It does. Now, this is Greg's question, so I am really curious about this because I have never heard of this. Do you use the Sara model?
So, I mean, not specifically. It's not something that is, we do use it, but it's not something that we have like written out that we have to use. So, really, it's not the exact model we go by, but, we're trained through NASRO, and we're basically taught to problem solve and to work as a team. And so every situation that we have on a daily basis, I would say the SARA model is pretty much implemented. We problem solve and we work together with school administrators and counselors and parents to find the best solution for that kid. So, someone might be having a bad day. Well, why? Why are they having a bad day? Something going on at home? Is something going on in school? So we really try to problem solve and make sure that we figure out the reason for the behavior. And it helps us navigate through things where we can provide resources for that juvenile. And, really what's important is having assistance available to not only the juvenile, but also the family, so that whatever that youth might be going through, they can get the necessary help, obviously to jump through barriers. It's not easy nowadays for students. And, unfortunately, there's a lot that goes on in students' lives that maybe we don't know about fully, but even if we can provide some sort of counseling to that individual or family counseling, it can make a huge difference in someone's life. So, obviously we have to navigate on a daily basis and make sure that students' needs are met. But the biggest thing is to work as a team and make sure we can problem solve efficiently.
Now, with your background and your training in mental health, do you feel that training has helped you to eliminate a lot of the referrals and maybe understand a child's issue of what's going on rather than the adverse effects?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of times where you have to sit back and say, why is this happening? Where's the behavior coming from? And it's not always beneficial to just say, I think we need to press charges against this youth. A lot of times we make referrals. We make referrals to the counselors. We make referrals to the substance abuse counselor. Or if it does come down to it and say that there are charges brought up against a youth, which is very rare in the schools. But if it does come down to it, we can always put, basically the detective would make recommendations to the courts or to the juvenile hearing board that counseling services be implemented. But again, it's very rare that charges are even brought up. Typically, we try to make referrals and get that juvenile hooked up with whoever they need to get some assistance. arrest. I know you mentioned that earlier, that a lot of people think that, SROs are just going to go in there and arrest kids and ruin their lives. That's, it's far from the truth. We're really there for support and to provide resources to families and students. So that's the biggest thing. And I do feel like my training has been very beneficial. The mental health first aid training I went through, I believe in 2019. And like, again, I've seen an uptick in mental health, especially in the school. So it's important for me to have that training, have that background, and to have the ability to see what's going on with somebody, whether it's them yelling and screaming in the hallways or it's them not talking at all. These things that we look for to see how we can help somebody and provide some sort of assistance to them.
Thank you. Officer Thulier, it's your time to shine. I was making sure you're staying awake. No. So can you tell us a little bit about the training process for being a DRE and how often you have to go through the training and what it entails?
Absolutely. So the way the process works is around once a year, the state will host a class for about 20 officers where they will then try and get them certified as drug recognition experts. So you have an internal application process where you apply through your own department to be sponsored to go to this training. You then have to have a brief interview process with members of the state training program. Once you are accepted into the program, there's about a 2-week training course that happens here in Rhode Island. Typically it's held in Cumberland. I think overall it's around 80 hours of direct training or educational experience that you get in recognizing the different drug categories, different ways that drugs impact individuals, whether they're out and about or behind the wheel of a vehicle, as well as doing wet labs where we actually perform the different tests that were taught on individuals who are dosed either with alcohol or other substances, and you become more familiar with exactly what it is you're expecting to see if someone's under the influence. After the 2-week program here in Rhode Island, we go down to Florida, where we spend a week doing more wet lab scenarios with individuals who have taken different types of narcotics or drugs. And we farther expand our skills trying to evaluate individuals to determine if they're under the influence of not just alcohol, but any drug that impacts their ability to drive or operate a vehicle safely. And then in terms of the recertification, so every 2 years, you're expected to perform at least 4 drug evaluations, one of which has to be done in front of a certified drug recognition expert instructor. And then we have continuous courses that we take to maintain our certification, maintain our experience. I can't remember the exact number of hours that you need to achieve in that 2-year period, but the state does a very, very good job of offering multiple resources or different trainings you can take every month. So everyone typically is far above that when it comes time to recertify.
Now, recently, the coalition, as well as the Portsmouth Police Department, collaborated to do a drug impairment training for educators. And a big topic was the vaping marijuana and the recognition. And of course, we couldn't have every administrator there, so we had a great turnout. But for those administrators that couldn't make it, and for the upcoming school year, what's some advice that you can give administrators about how they could suspect if there's marijuana use, or how they can detect it?
Yeah, so that training was a great thing to be a part of. I was happy to be there with a few other members of the Portsmouth Police Department. The questions that we got that night were terrific. The number one thing that we try and tell people is, these kids, they're your students, they're the individuals that you coach, their baseline. So if they present differently than you're used to seeing them, don't immediately assume that they're under the influence of something. There could be any number of factors kind of impacting them that day. But anytime someone deviates from their baseline, that's an indicator that something else may be going on. Now, if you partner that with what you already know as the signs and symptoms of someone being impaired, if we're looking at marijuana for juveniles, you might have bloodshot eyes, you might have issues paying attention, restlessness, kind of those symptoms that we're all aware of. Partner that with abnormal behavior or deviation from the child's baseline, you can start to think, okay, maybe there's something going on here. I think that's kind of the number one thing, especially for parents, coaches, teachers, people who interact with these kids every single day.
I agree. I agree that it's important to know kids' baselines, and that's why it's important to have resource officers and other mentors in the school, so that there are adults that know these kids' baselines. It's important. So marijuana is legal, or soon to be legal, and I'm afraid that there's going to be more in the community. I mean, not that we don't see it a lot with Massachusetts being not far, but will marijuana edibles produce the same influence signals as vaping or smoking or however else?
So if you're ingesting the same substance, so if you're ingesting marijuana, there are certain things that you're going to see. There are clinical indicators that we would see when we do a GRE evaluation. There's also just general indicators that you could see when you see someone out in the community. The most part, those will be similar regardless of how it's ingested, whether it's taken orally, whether it's smoked or vaped, or taken some other way. One thing that we kind of say as our recognition experts is, the faster it's ingested, the faster you're going to see the signs and symptoms, and the faster it's going to run its course through the body. When you smoke something, you're going to have more of an immediate onset of those signs and symptoms, as opposed to eating something where it's going to take a little bit longer for that to be processed through your digestive system and into your bloodstream, and then it's going to affect your brain. So what you may see is a more prolonged high. It may take longer for that high to kick in. And then they may remain in an altered state for a longer period of time. You also most likely won't get the same more immediate symptoms, or not really a symptom, but a sign where you're not going to have that same odor. You may not see debris on someone's teeth or lips that you would see if they had smoked a marijuana cigarette, or if they'd used a glass bowl or something like that. So you're not going to have that same readily apparent smell. But the way that it affects your body, if it's the same dosage, the same substance, it will affect you the same way, just at a different rate of time. What you may see is, you have different types of marijuana that people take with different concentrations of THC or CBD. So depending on what they take, how much they take, it may be different. That's less about how it's taken and more about what the actual concentration is.
So I don't know where this started or where this was developed, but some youth now feel that they can perform better under the influence.
Adults too.
Yeah, that's very true. So I'm going to ask this mind-blowing Mythbuster question. Is there any truth to that?
No, so that's something we hear a lot when you ask people, why did you do this? Or why did you smoke this? They say, oh, well, it relaxes me. It makes me feel more calm. It makes me feel more confident behind the wheel of the vehicle, which they may perceive that to be true. If you have kids who are driving for the first time, or they're driving their friends, or they're going to, some event, they may be anxious. They may have anxiety already about whatever it is they're doing, or just in general, they may be a more anxious person. And they feel that ingesting the substance calms them down. And it may, to some degree, calm their anxiety. It may make them feel more relaxed. What they seem to forget is all the other ways that it impairs their ability to operate safely. So they may think that, oh, I'm less nervous when I drive, so I'm going to drive better. However, their reaction time is going to be slower. Their depth perception is going to be altered. So their ability to react to other things on the roadway is greatly reduced, which then makes them much more likely to get involved in a serious accident or any accident for that. So that's a really, really big hurdle that we're trying to overcome, where kids truly believe I drive better, I'm more calm, I'm more relaxed, but they don't understand all the other ways that their driving behavior is altered. They may come to a light that's green, it's turning yellow and red, and because they're not as focused as they otherwise would be, they don't perceive that. They run the light and are either injured themselves or injure someone else. That's something that we're trying to teach people, that it's just not true.
If only there was some way we could show people how it is to function under the influence. If only there was some way.
Yeah, it'd be a cool resource to have.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if there's anything out there.
You got anything?
Yes, so Lieutenant Morse, our administrative lieutenant at the department, did a lot of really good work to put together a proposal that we made to the Prevention Coalition. So our department is working on obtaining a driving system that will allow us to show juveniles and young adults what it's like to operate a vehicle while under the influence without actually being under the influence. So we don't have it yet. We're working on obtaining it soon. Hopefully we'll have it for the coming school year. But basically we're looking at a system that will allow a team of trained officers to have juveniles operate basically a modified go-kart, that while they're operating, we can kind of control the back ends and make it function in a way that they were under the influence of a substance. So while they may try and turn left, the wheel may suddenly jerk to the right. And we're hoping that through using this, it'll just be one more tool that we have to kind of show kids, you know, this is what happens when you're operating under the influence. This is why it's so dangerous. And when we did this proposal, one thing I said to members of the Prevention Coalition was, you know, we understand that some people may say, oh, well, it's fun. You're making kids think it's fun to drive like this. But for me personally, the idea of operating a vehicle and then it's suddenly turning the wrong way, or I hit the brake and the gas goes down, that would stick with me. And I think that we're gonna have that same impact with the kids. They're gonna be driving the first time, they're gonna be nervous. So if they think back to, all right, well, when I was driving that go-kart at school, I wanted to turn left, but suddenly the wheel veered to the right, that might make them think and remember, all right, I didn't like that lack of control when I'm operating, you know, my mom or my dad's car or the car that I saved up for. I don't want to have that happen. So I'm going to be extra cautious before I get behind the wheel.
Right, right.
My I got a new car last year and it had Autocorrect, or I don't know what it's called, and I had just gotten it, and we went, one of my kids and I went to pick up another kid at college. It was a long drive and I hadn't experienced it, and on the highway several times my car like took over and jerked me back into the lane, even though I didn't think I was veering. And I don't think that child that was riding with me will ever drive my car, because
Yeah,
it was like
the lane departure
terrifying.
system is pretty, yeah, it's pretty
we've got it
wild,
turned
especially the
off
first
now,
time
but-
if you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
It's almost
awful.
like, you know, it's like when you're driving in the snow or the rain and you either slid or you hydroplane. No one wants to have that happen all the time.
No.
So, you know,
Yeah.
why would you want to get behind the wheel of a vehicle when, you know, you're impaired, or, you know, your ability to operate a vehicle is less than due to some substance. So, you know, hopefully this is just one more tool that we have to really drive home the message that it's not safe to drive while impaired. You're putting your life at risk, your friends' lives at risk, and everyone else on the roadway's life at risk.
While we're talking about different tools, can you tell us a little bit about your goggles that you have? I did see you at a meeting where another adult tried them on and did a little demonstration, I guess. I was afraid to. I thought I get motion sick. I thought I would be sick for the rest of the day, but it was very interesting.
Yeah, so growing up in school, I remember in health class, we always had, they would call them drunk goggles. And they would just be this pair of goggles that would slightly shift your vision. We'd put them on and we'd try and walk a straight line, do different things. They didn't really work that well. Luckily, we have now obtained really, really, really good goggles for alcohol impairment, marijuana impairment, and then narcotic impairment. The ones that we have now do a great job of kind of, through only impacting your vision, showing individuals what it would be like to be impaired at different amounts of alcohol or different substances. I've had the opportunity to use them with the Citizens Police Academy, with different presentations. The best example, or the best time that we've used them, was actually when Officer Pirri had members of the high school police academy come in and use them. We had them try and play catch with tennis balls while wearing the glasses. We had a great reaction. So we do have the goggles used for alcohol impairment at different BACs, or different amounts of alcohol in your blood. I believe we're the only department that I'm aware of that has marijuana impairment goggles, which do a really, really good job of kind of simulating what it's like to be under the influence of marijuana, even though we're only impacting your vision. And then another resource that we just got are the narcotics goggles, which are a tremendous resource. They're basically a pair of sunglasses that someone will put on, and they put on weighted gloves, and I can control the glasses with an application on my phone to simulate someone actually experiencing a narcotics overdose, where their vision will begin to blur. Eventually, it will begin to simulate them nodding off, where their vision may black out in one eye than the other, or it will simulate your eyelids shutting. Like I said, it's just more tools that we have at our disposal to teach people the dangers of drug impairment, especially while trying to operate a vehicle.
Wow. Seems like we're ready.
Yeah.
Don't try and get over in Portsmouth. It's not going to happen. Wow. So being a DRE, are you called out to like every stop, like every suspicious or under the influence call, or is there a point where a DRE has to come to the call, has to come to the stop?
So there's a point. So it works in a couple of different ways. So the primary way that we are called out, or called in for an investigation, would be post-arrest. So if an officer views the vehicle operating recklessly in the roadway, or they see multiple land roadway violations or moving violations, they effect a motor vehicle stop, they interact with the operator, they see signs of impairment, but either they smell a small amount of alcohol in someone's breath, or no alcohol in their breath. Through their investigation of doing the SFSTs, or the standardized field sobriety tests that everyone sees in the movies and the shows, or sees us doing on the side of the road, the individual fails those tests. So the officer basically understands that I had poor driving behavior, I had signs and symptoms indicating impairment, I had the individual fail this field sobriety test. They believe they have probable cause to effect an arrest for drunk or impaired driving. But then when they request a chemical test, either A, the person refuses, or they submit to a breath test, they blow under the legal limit. But that the level of impairment that the officer is seeing does not coincide with the level of alcohol in their blood, or the complete lack thereof. So then they begin to think that the person is under the influence of drugs, narcotics, something other than alcohol. So that's typically when we get called in. We would speak with the individual, see if they're willing to engage in an evaluation. We would then conduct the 12-step drug recognition expert evaluation, and then we would try and make a determination based on our training experience as a drug recognition expert, if they're impaired by a substance other than alcohol, and then specifically what that substance would be. We kind of come in post-arrest. The other way that we function is, we like to say we're also drug recognition educators. We speak with officers, other members of the department, about what signs and symptoms they would see for different drug categories, whether someone's under the influence of a stimulant such as cocaine or Adderall, or a narcotic analgesic like fentanyl or heroin, or something along those lines. So we try and educate officers on what they may see aside from just alcohol and when they can make an arrest, and then what the kind of follow-up would be.
That is great.
It is.
That is great. I've learned so much.
I feel like I could ask you guys questions for another 2 hours. But I know how busy you are because we are on a main road and we hear you guys all day. So coincidentally, I haven't heard any police cars going by, and all illegal activity.
Because they
is
got
halted.
everything.
Right.
Everything
While we're
under
doing
control
podcasts.
so far. Wow.
Thank you both so much for coming and telling us all about your community activities and drug recognition and all the other prevention programs you have going on in the police department.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Oh, my pleasure. Before you go, can you give us our listeners the website in case community wants to schedule an event for either you to do a training or to have an appearance or maybe even use the goggles or anything like that?
Regular Portsmouth Police website, and within the website you'll see a request form for community events, and it's very simple to fill out. And once it's completed, you just hit submit, and one of our sergeants or lieutenants will definitely get that information and respond back to that person, whether it's they'll call them and get more details for the event. Because we love getting out there and being there for the community, and especially engaging with our youth in town. So I really do recommend, if anyone's thinking about having some larger event in town and you want us there to interact with kids, please fill out the request form, and we look forward to working with whoever in the future wants us to be there. So
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. It's been terrific.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You
as
too.
well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.